Hey guys, it's John. I just wanted to hop on being September 11th. Just wanted to talk about September 11th for a little bit. When September 11th happened, I was performing at the Maryland Renaissance Festival. And I was taking my dog out for a walk. And as I walked out across the field, the guy who ran the elephant rides opened his door and he yells out to me. He says, "Terrorists just attacked the World Trade Center." And, I did what I had to do with my dog, let him do his duty, and went back to my trailer. And at that time, I was living in a 35-foot fifth wheel trailer with big slide outs and everything. And I went in and I just turned on my television and I just started watching what was going on. And I witnessed the whole attack in DC on TV live when I was 30 minutes from DC. It was surreal. The whole environment, the whole energy of the place was just surreal. It felt like there was a weight in the air. The skies were silent. And suddenly we heard this rumbling noise, and we looked up, and 5 Black Hawk helicopters flew over with door gunners hanging out on the sides in place, ready to go. It was like we were in a war zone in a moment. I sat there and we watched the news, and my friend Johnny Fox came over and watched the news with us, and we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." And then the following weekend, the Renaissance Festival decided to open. You could feel the tension in the air. People were having fun, they were laughing, they were enjoying the day, and it was the place was packed. It was like people needed to go out and have fun because of what was going on in the world. I remember on our first show of the day, we were there backstage, we had prepped, we were ready to do the show, and you could hear the crowd sounded different. The crowd sounded stressed and anxious and wanting someone to make them laugh, wanting someone to make them feel okay. We were doing our comedy sword fighting show that was called the Hack and Slash Ale Extravaganza. It was our tribute to sword fighting and beer, kind of like an Irish honeymoon. And there's a part in there where we had these joking prayers. We would salute each other and say, "To God," but before we got a chance to, some woman in the crowd screams out, "God bless America!" And the crowd cheered. And then my comedy partner, who was a brilliantly funny man, he says, yes, God bless America. Now shut up, drunk lady." And the crowd went crazy. And it was like they were so relieved that we could just laugh. They were so relieved that they could just release tensions. Oftentimes on my channel, I talk about laughter having the 2 key elements of every spiritual experience, being 100% present and being 100% fearless. And what was in the air that day was fear and anxiety and stress. And in that fear, anxiety, and stress, people wanted something to make them laugh. They wanted something to let them release and let that tension out of their bodies. And they came to our show to let us do that for them. And to me, that was such an absolute blessing to be able to be that release valve, the thing that let them turn down that pressure of their fears and anxieties. 9/11 was a life-changing moment here in the United States. And a couple weeks later, I was asked to do USO shows. And 2001 to 2006, I did 6 of them. And I will tell you, that moment of being the pressure release valve right after the event was a gratifying moment. But to be on the front lines of Iraq and Afghanistan, that these young people who are younger than my son is now volunteered to go anywhere in the world to defend us. That's noble. That's brave. And the potential of them being in harm's way was very great. The fact that they were going into a war zone. And we were one of the few comedy teams that packed down small enough that they could fly us out to the most forward operating bases. During Easter Sunday, I forget which year this was. I think it was probably 2003. I did every Marine base in the Anbar province from Baghdad all the way to Syria. Our last base was a base called Korean Village, which is a few miles from the Syrian border. And that base was interesting because we performed for 8 or 10 soldiers. But there are more soldiers than that on the walls protecting that room because it was that kind of experience. You know, I think today we should remember, even though that was an atrocity all those years ago, I think it's important that we remember that people are out there right now volunteering their lives in our defense. They're out there right now doing missions to achieve objectives to help our country. Now, whether you believe in war or not, which I'm not a big believer in war in general, but you can believe in the nobility and the bravery of the men and women who are doing that kind of work. And saluting them on a day like today is, I think, the most loving thing to do. But the more loving thing for us to do is to take today and change this world into a loving world that we don't need to defend because there's nothing to defend from. And so I just wanted to hop on and make this quick video because, you know, September 11th always makes me think about those soldiers that I met on the front lines and how we sometimes take them for granted, that they're just the military. No, they are young men and women who have gone off to protect us. And I think it's important that we remember that. Like I said, I don't believe in war. I don't believe in violence. But I do believe in acts of bravery and acts of love and acts of courage made to help others. And I think that's what these military people do. And I just wanted to hop on and make this quick video and share with you a little bit of my experience about September 11th. And I will talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.